The Northern Elders Forum has alleged that millions of voters in the northern part of Nigeria, particularly women, are being made to surrender their permanent voter cards for as little as 2,000 naira by some political parties which are contesting the 2023 elections. According to the forum's Director of Publicity and Advocacy, that's Dr. Hakeem Ahmed, through a statement issued on Thursday, the Independent National Electoral Commission has confirmed what the public had been aware of in the last few weeks. He claimed that all the political parties were involved in the vote suppression plot. Dr. Baba Ahmed joins us now. Good to have you on Newsday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time as well. Now, in light of this news, the members of the electorate are being made to give up their PVCs. How confident are you that regarding the assurances given by INEC, which says the practice cannot compromise its systems and the processes?
Well, as far as INEC is concerned, we believe them at this stage. We had consulted them earlier on, as we were supposed to do. When this practice was becoming alarming, we quietly consulted INEC if they knew about this. They said they had some suspicions. Then there were some arrests of people with large numbers of voting cards, PVCs. And then later, 3 days ago, INEC itself admitted that it's a large-scale purchase of PVCs from people. And then we released our statement. So your question about how much credibility we should attach to INEC's insistence that receiving somebody else's PVC card doesn't give you a vote, his or her vote. We believe them. We believe them at this stage that their processes do not allow anybody to use someone else's card. That is not what we think the whole point of buying cards of people is. We think it's about voter suppression. And it's a very dangerous practice. It's relatively new in Nigeria, but it's covered by law. It's illegal. And for us in the north, when you deprive large numbers of people of their votes, or anywhere in Nigeria, that is potentially dangerous both to them and to the the capacity of people to exercise a decision over who rules them. It is intolerable and it must be stopped.
Now, you've been witnessing the trends on the ground. What have you noticed, seeing as we've seen the CBN go to extensive measures to curtail the circulation of currency, redesigning, and yet to implement the reduction in the withdrawal limits, but that's coming. Are you seeing any trend that implies that these measures are making an impact to slow down the purchase of PVCs with the aim of voter suppression?
No, we haven't. First of all, the CBN measures are unlikely to affect what's going on. The amounts we're talking about are very meager, 1,000, 2,000 naira, and they take away somebody's PVC card. There are pretenses that they will use it, they will use the card to create an account for somebody. Generally, they go to women and say, give us your card, we would open some kind of relief program for you and an account, and they never come back with it. So there isn't a link between what CBN is doing and what is going on. What is going on is actually called voter suppression. It is denying large numbers of people their rights and opportunities to vote on election days because they don't have PVCs. And you don't have PVC, at least according to INEC, you cannot vote. Even if you have somebody else's PVC, you cannot vote. So it's a voter suppression attempt, but it's widespread and it's disturbing for us because it affects the voting population, it affects the rights of people, and it's a violation of a law. And we felt at this stage that we should alert people to know about this.
Well, Dr. Hakeem, based on the perspective that you painted, this being suppression at its finest, and the fact that the intention is probably not to use these PVCs on election day. Based on your interaction also with INEC, do you, from the responses you've got from them, do you get a sense that provisions are being made to provide alternatives for those whose PVCs have been collected and might be kept to disenfranchise them come election day?
Well, I don't know what kind of provisions we would ask INEC whether INEC is making. If INEC issues you with a PVC card, it can replace it if you can prove that it was genuinely lost. But if you sold your PVC to someone, or you gave someone your PVC on the pretext that it's going to be used for something, I'm not sure that INEC has a provision for replacing it for you. There's too little time, and I don't think that the commission itself is going to be interested in replacing cards that were deliberately sold out or collected under false pretenses. So I'm not sure that INEC is making provisions for those things, but that's better answered by INEC. But I would say at this stage, the best thing is don't part with your PVC under any circumstances. Any circumstances.
Now, some critics are saying that the 2023 election will be decided by those places that will not be able to vote. Now, apart from this voter suppression plot that you have exposed, another issue is insecurity. And of course, in the last election, we saw numbers that many felt were somewhat unreasonable, as there was a huge turnout in areas where there was high insecurity, and it was alleged that, as much as the election was declared free and fair, there's speculation that there may have been ghost voting. Now, can you talk us through some of the ways? Of course, insecurity is a huge issue, but what are some of the measures that can be put into place to ensure that insecurity doesn't become a tool of voter suppression?
Well, if you notice in that same statement where we alerted the public to the existence of this widespread practice of taking people's cards for small amounts of money, particularly women, we also mentioned the need to improve to reduce the level of insecurity in the country, because insecurity is the biggest hindrance. Except, of course, now if this voter suppression practice becomes wider and more widespread. Insecurity is a major challenge to the 2023 elections. For us in the North, it's a very, very serious problem. In large numbers of the North, in Katsina, in Kaduna, in Zamfara, in Kebbi, in Niger State, virtually in the entire Northwest, in many parts of the Northeast, and virtually entirely in the Southeast, millions of people are potentially going to be disenfranchised simply because on voting days they will be unable to come out, overcome security threats and security challenges and vote. INEC will not be able to deploy because INEC personnel and INEC assets are likely to be unsafe. And so huge numbers of people are likely to be disenfranchised. So in the same statement we released, we drew attention of the responsibility of the federal government to fight insecurity, and we are particularly worried about the Northwest and the Southeast. These are two areas where insecurity can make a decisive impact in terms of turnouts, in terms of the quality of the elections, the integrity of the elections, but principally the rights of Nigerians to decide who becomes leaders in 2023. So insecurity is a very, very serious challenge.
Thank you, Dr. Hakeem.
And it must be dealt with now, not a week. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now, we're almost out of time, but based on that report, it also said that all the political parties are involved in this voter suppression situation. How do we vote wisely if they're all involved in this?
Well, what we said is we couldn't establish a partisan pattern to this practice, meaning that we don't know whether it's who would be responsible. But what we see is virtually everybody is involved in this. Like if we are able to curtail this practice, sadly nip it in the bud now. It's out of the bud. It's a big problem. If we're able to curtail it, then majority of Nigerians, and if we're able to control the level of insecurity, then majority of Nigerians will be free to decide who becomes leaders in 2023. If we're not able to do this, people who would have gone through a very, very rigorous process of getting PVCs, but who will now sell it for 1,000, 2,000 naira, would have become permanently disenfranchised. People who would have PVCs, who would want to vote, will not be able to vote because the security environment does not allow them to vote. So numbers will be limited, choices will be limited. Candidates, if voter suppression works, some candidates will lose only because opponents have already bought up a large number of cards in areas where they're strong. And generally speaking, Nigerians would have been deprived. This huge number of Nigerians who have registered in the last few months, huge numbers, unprecedented number of Nigerians have registered. These numbers will become academic. If one part of the country is particularly targeted, and we're particularly worried about the North, because in the North we have a majority of the voting population. We are worried about depleting the votes in the North. As we said in our statement, it's not important at this stage for us who and over their votes. He or she should be free to exercise their choice over their candidate. But when they can't vote at all, that's a very serious problem for us. It's a serious problem because we want to participate in the election of who becomes our leaders.
That's right. It is a serious concern. Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed of the Northern Elders Forum, Director of Publicity and Advocacy, we thank you for your insight. Thank you for raising the alarm, and we do hope that this is dealt with swiftly before Election Day. Thank you for your time.